Eat muffins and play Candy Crush? Keep cooking. I don't know. Keep Boozy out of there. I just hate so much hair in the bedroom. I got you guys. My bad, guys. I'm over here trying to edit this video for Instagram. I got real quick, so um. So a friend of mine, well, an art buddy, bought one of my brush holders, and she got it, and she did like a unpacking video on her Instagram. So, but she has a private account, so I was just gonna like share her video on my storyline, but since her account is private, I had to screenshot her video. So why the fuck are you in the house? Man, I'll fuck these motherfuckers up, yo. Fuck them bitches. Oh, the house was on the market. I know it was up for Airbnb, but then the owner said he was going to sell the house, and we know nobody is in here. And so we saw somebody walk in and out the house, so we decided to come check on it. Bitch, I'm in this house. You ain't got no permission to walk in this fucking house, bitch. I'll beat your fucking ass. Matter of fact, I might shoot you and then call the cops and tell the cops I shot you for walking into my motherfucking house. I thought it was a B&E. Oh, I swear I hate people, yo. But yeah, my homie, she got this. So she did get her brush holder. This is dope. Then she did a little video, the unboxing of it and everything. All right, I'm about to roll up because it's early in the morning, and now I'm about to smoke. Can't find anything to listen to.
Matt and Tracy, you wanted to talk about whether or not atheism is rationally justified.
Hey, Tracy and Matt. Tracy, I believe you spoke.
Yeah, I think so too. The name looked familiar. So what's on your mind?
Yeah. Well, actually, different questions, probably a little controversial.
Well, that's cheap.
But I wanted to know.
Okay, go ahead.
Go for it.
Well, it's on the same line. I was just wondering because I heard you guys said something to do with homosexuality, and I was thinking, how is homosexuality rationally justified? I mean, what's the argument that says homosexuality is a moral behavior?
What's the argument that says it isn't? The burden of proof we begin. The smart thing to do is to grant every liberty and freedom, and then begin limiting freedoms and liberties for good reasons. So, what's the problem with two people of the same gender having a romantic and sexual heterosexual relationship?
Okay, first of all, there are a couple different problems with that. First of all, often in those kind of relationships, there's a high spread of AIDS going on, so it's actually detrimental to that society or law. You know, that's true, that's a fact. Another problem.
So I'm going to pause you. I'm going to pause you because, first of all, while AIDS isn't cured, we have great medications that essentially diminish the effects and make people so that they can live with it, etc. But the fact that a particular, like, you could be in a homosexual relationship and never actually engage in any sort of behavior that even slightly increases your risk of getting AIDS.
Right, but also it's not a homosexual illness, right?
Correct.
There are huge swaths of the globe where heterosexual women are the primary.
Now, I ain't saving these shit for a rainy day. I'm about to break these bitches down and roll them back up right now.
The question was, why is it wrong?
Today is the rainy day.
Right, but all sex would be wrong if
So
if we were saying STIs.
There's a risk of STIs, and there's some that aren't going to happen in lesbian relationships periodically. There's some that aren't going to happen in male-male relationships. But none of that gets to why it's wrong. The fact that something may not, that it may increase a risk for something. I mean, you might as well be using that to say that skydiving is wrong.
Or driving.
Because, there's a chance that parachute doesn't open. Or driving. Driving is wrong. Because if you don't ever drive, you're not going to, cause a car accident.
Right, this is why I was going to give a bunch of different reasons. Definitely.
Okay, then start with one that's not crap.
Obviously. Well, no, that's not a crap reason.
It is
yes,
crap.
It is.
It is absolutely
If you
crap.
understand what Matt just said, then you understand why that's crap.
It is functionally crap because it has nothing to do with the moral component.
Right. Yeah. So
right.
Another reason that there's a problem.
Another reason you didn't make a first reason.
Right. So one, there's detrimental effects to society. Another thing is
whoa.
But those are detrimental effects that all sexual homosexuality would be subject to.
Yeah, and by the way, you didn't list any. You just asserted that there are detrimental effects to society. Are there also positive effects to society?
Yes, there are.
Yeah, so I'm not going to wait for you to answer that because it's obvious there are. So now come up with a reason that it's wrong that isn't crap.
Right. Yeah. So and a couple other reasons are more on the theological side. Which
I don't give a shit about the theological side.
Yeah, really.
Which I understand that, but
then why?
Because those are crap too. So do you value?
All right.
Do you value the right for people to do? Because first of all, you don't choose who you fall in love with. You don't choose who you want to interact. You choose what you do about it. But it's not like I chose to fall in love with Beth.
And I really don't know that there's in most cases, a rational component to sex with anybody. It's mostly visceral and instinctive.
And so the question here then becomes: we definitely we're going to say we value individual freedom and autonomy, the ability to live your life, the ability to not be punished or have the choices that you make diminished if they don't impact the lives of others. And so pointing out that there's something that you can view as wrong with homosexuality is irrelevant until you point out the one that is the justification for overriding individuals' freedoms.
Raymore and Flanagan has the solution for your best sleep yet. Get a free adjustable base with the purchase of select mattresses. Plus, with free 6-day delivery, you'll be sleeping better tomorrow night. Shop now at Raymore and Flanagan.
Don't let Joe Biden tax away your rights.
Guess what? If you elect me, you're not going to have your taxes are going to be raised, not cut.
Especially if you're a gun owner. Joe Biden's plan? Confiscate your firearms unless you pay up. He could cost you thousands to keep your guns. Don't let Joe Biden tax away your rights.
Right. Well, I don't think it's really a good argument to suggest just because you don't personally care about religion, therefore it doesn't matter. I mean, I care about it. I need to assert that my...
Well, no, wait a minute. Let me see if I might be able to help. Wait, I might be able to help facilitate this. Here's the thing. Wait. Let me just try this.
He just said it was a bad argument, and I'm responding to it.
I just want to make sure he understands.
He doesn't.
If the religious reason is a good reason, then you don't need to use religion because you'll be able to demonstrate it's a good reason even without the religion, right? So if the religion has a good reason for putting it forward, then you should be able to just point to the good reason, and you don't really need to go to religion for it.
Well, I think so first off, there's a few problems with that. First off, I assume that people are capable of reason apart from the Christian God. That people are
It doesn't assume humans are capable of reason. Humans are in fact capable of reason, most of us.
Okay, so there's a problem. It assumes people are capable of reason. I also said that
I just said that's not a fucking problem. It's not an assumption. It's a demonstration. Not only are we capable of reasoning, we are able to define and describe reasoning. We are able to describe how and why we know when we come across fallacious reasoning. We are able to describe how we know when our emotions and biases are affecting things. For you to suggest that we are just presupposing that humans can reason is flatly fucking absurd. So don't just assert it again. If I offer a rebuttal, don't just restate the same thing. You need to then rehabilitate your argument or drop it.
Yeah. So there's the fall of man, I believe, that happened thousands of years ago.
I don't believe that the fall of man is a real thing or that it happened 1,000 years ago.
Just because you don't believe that, I mean, that doesn't mean that it's not true.
Correct. And just because you do believe it, does not mean, oh my God, interrupt me one more fucking time, I dare you.
Okay, he's on hold.
Just because you do believe it doesn't mean it's true. So if you're just calling into the show to assert things that you believe and offer no argument for it, I'm not interested. Okay. Make a case.
Yeah, and I have to say that if this is just going to be preaching, just tell us now and we'll move on to the next call.
Yeah.
Okay, you're off hold.
No, well, I didn't plan on preaching. I just planned...
Saying that starting with the fall of man and then just asserting it and saying this is part of your argument is preaching. Especially when you admit that you understand that Matt's not just going to accept it as...
So you don't like homosexuals and you don't like sound arguments. Go ahead. What's next?
Okay, well, first off, I never said I didn't like homosexuals, so that's a straw man. What I'm simply coming on to do is to show that I don't believe that homosexuality has a rational justification. I think if we're to justify homosexuality,
I addressed that. I addressed that. I addressed
like that.
What did you just say?
That claims that it's been.
What the
He's
fuck?
on hold.
Okay, now you're on hold, so even if you're still talking, other people will hear this. First of all, you're saying that homosexuality doesn't have a rational justification. And I addressed this point at the outset, that we don't need a rational justification to permit people to engage in activities. We need rational justifications to limit freedoms, not to have freedoms. Otherwise, we would have a list of here are the 5 things that everyone is allowed to do, and that's it.
Well,
instead, we have maximal freedom, and we begin limiting for good reasons as it impacts others.
most romantic relationships, though, do not have a rational justification. Usually, it's just because you like somebody, you fell in love with them, and then you
Correct.
proceed.
Yeah, on that ground, that argument is also crap, because first of all, as Tracy pointed out, they don't necessarily have a rational justification. But the point I made earlier was that you need a rational justification to limit them, or to say that something's wrong. But I would like for you to tell me how the fuck you started with, I didn't ever say I didn't like homosexuals, and had a bad string of arguments, and then uttered the word pedophilia. Go.
Okay, you're off hold.
Well, I believe that if one rationally justifies the act of homosexuality with some of the arguments, like they're born this way, or they have a choice in the matter,
It wouldn't matter if they did.
arguments can be applied to
You don't have to
No,
justify it.
no, you are completely fucking wrong. Pedophilia, by the way, is a sexual preference. It doesn't mean that somebody's actually going to act on it. And so we're not going to disparage pedophiles who don't actually engage in it. They have no more choice about what they're attracted to than the person who's attracted to a fence post, the person who's attracted to me, or the person who is foolishly attracted to you. So that attraction thing is not an issue. What is a problem is pederasty and child rape. And that is actually a problem because there is not informed, enthusiastic consent of 2 responsible adults, and that is not in any way remotely comparable to what happens when 2 adults of the same gender interact, and you should be ashamed of yourself for even trying to string those 2 things together.
And it's also not restricted to gay people. Let's just be clear that,
Right, yeah, and I didn't say gay people with pedophilia. I said the justification of the act of homosexuality, the same arguments can be applied to.
And you're wrong.
You don't have to justify
arguments cannot be applied.
Well, I've been interrupted about over 5 times.
You know how many times you're going to get interrupted here in a minute? You're going to get interrupted no more times because we're going to hang up. You made the case that the same arguments could be used to justify pedophilia as there are for homosexuality. And I corrected you that pedophilia is not the issue that you're talking about, and that the arguments that you're talking about don't apply to both of them. So either acknowledge that or rehabilitate your argument.
Yeah, basically what Matt objected to was he was saying that you're talking about informed consent between adults versus non-informed consent from 2 adults when you're dealing with children. And so it's not the same justifications. And I would say that you don't have to justify homosexuality. I don't even know what it means
to justify your attraction to anyone or anything. That's not a thing that is justified.
Right. So the pedophile's desires are completely fine as long as they don't act on it.
Correct.
That's your argument.
Correct. That's not an argument, it's a fact.
So then, what would be wrong with someone acting on a desire that's completely neutral? Why would it suddenly become wrong?
Nothing.
If it was neutral,
if it was acting on a desire that's completely neutral, there's nothing wrong with it.
He's saying that this is a pedophilia. He's interpreting pedophilia as a neutral desire because you're saying there's nothing wrong with the desire. So what's wrong with acting on it?
Because desire and action are different.
Right.
I might desire to punch you in the face, but acting on it would be the actual problem.
Right. You can desire all kinds of things, but if you're not doing them, then you're not creating issues for other people.
And I'm a nonviolent person, so I wouldn't do that anyway.
I think it's a meaningless distinction.
Then you're an idiot.
It's not a meaningless distinction.
What you're simply
wanting to rob a bank and robbing a bank are 2 different things.
Yeah, absolutely. We don't arrest people, put them in prison for wanting to do things.
Saying that it's okay to desire to want to rob a bank?
Yes, sir.
It's okay to want to do anything.
Yes, sir.
It's not okay to do anything.
What about a mass murderer? Is that an okay desire to have?
It's okay to have that desire.
Right,
It's
as long as you're not
wrong.
acting on
As a
it.
matter of fact, the person who has that desire and never acts on it is engaging in a morally superior position.
Yeah.
Because they recognize that the action is distinct and different and has consequences.
Yeah, they have a moral filter.
Superiority on naturalism. Can you explain that to me?
Sorry, what was the question?
Moral superiority on naturalism. How is something better than another position? Can you explain that to me?
So our actions have consequences, and it is the actions that matter. Now, if there are oh my God, you want me to answer your question or not?
Go ahead and answer. It's okay. Go ahead.
So, someone has a desire but never acts on it. That is morally superior to the person who has a desire to do something harmful and then acts on it. Because it's the actions that have consequences for ourselves and for others. My desire, what goes on in my head, first of all, is nobody's business. Nobody can know unless I state it. Nobody can make an assessment of me. I could be sitting here every day on the show with really horrific desires that I never act on. I'm not, but you don't have any way to know that. You don't have any right to know it. And what you're doing is trying to make thoughts a crime. But thoughts aren't necessarily a crime. You have to actually make that case. Hang on.
Well, I'm not talking about the legal content of the thoughts. What I'm simply saying is the fact that you yourself delineate between moral superiority and you say one thought is better than another, you're simply saying is there's something wrong with this thought, but they're not acting on it, so we're okay with that.
He didn't say there's
the only thing that's wrong with the thought that we can establish right away is that if one were to act on it, that would be detrimental. That would be against well-being. But people don't choose their thoughts. You don't have any control over whether or not you believe something or are attracted to someone or anybody else. You can, in fact, influence it, and other people can influence it as well. But what you're trying to do is make, along the lines of theology, make thoughts a crime, make thoughts a sin, make thoughts immoral. And what I'm saying is that it is the actions and the consequences of those actions that determine morality. And that is entirely rooted in naturalism. We are physical beings in a physical universe. The physical laws of the universe dictate what the consequences of our actions are. Otherwise, if I stabbed you in the neck with a hatchet and we were in a universe that could have willy-nilly things, maybe that would actually be a wonderful, pleasant experience for you that would make you immune to cancer and live forever in a universe that doesn't have these naturalistic laws. But we live in the universe that does. And so that's what we use to assess the consequences of our action. The superiority of secular morality is that it has the entirety, the goal is entirely about getting better and understanding and building on that understanding. Religious moral systems have pronouncements about what is, and that's why you're convinced that somebody who has an evil thought is somehow a bad person, even...
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. The dude is weird. He's trying to make this weird ass argument on thought crime. And this goes back to who's the guy? Philip K. Dick. Philip K. Dick wrote Minority Report, where in the future people were being punished for thought crimes. And that's basically what this guy is trying to do. He's like, oh, you can't think bad things because it's immoral and you should go to fucking hell. And what Matt and Jenna and Tracy are trying to get him to understand is like, you don't even know what a motherfucker thinks, yo. If somebody doesn't tell you what they're thinking, you don't know what people think. And just because they think something that we would consider to be negative or detrimental or goes against one's well-being, they can have these thoughts all day long, every second of the fucking day. As long as they don't act upon them, then there's nothing fucking wrong. The thoughts are in your fucking head. You can take all your thoughts to the grave and never rape, murder, kill, maim, torture anybody, but always thought about it, and you've never done anything wrong. You've never done anything wrong. Shit, I think about slapping motherfuckers up all the time. I don't do the shit though. Yeah, he's acting like he's never had a negative thought or a thought about malice or anything. Like, get the fuck out of here, yo. And just because, once again, just because you have a bad thought doesn't mean that you're gonna act upon those thoughts, and it doesn't make you a bad person. So he came in here with this whole talking about gays and then pedophilia, and then now if it's fucking moral to even have a certain thought. This is that religious shit, man. Fucking that religion make you, that shit make people think sideways, yo.
And if they don't act on it, and you are wrong.
So, Dillahunty, are you saying that societal consequences then determine whether or not something is correct or the right?
No,
if society doesn't act on it, then it's okay.
No, that's not what he was trying to
That's
say.
not even in the fucking ballpark of what I was talking about.
Okay, so what was the point of bringing up, as much as we can see, there seems to be consequences to certain actions, right?
Because
how does that affect the moral argument? So once people react negatively to it.
He's talking about real world consequences, not artificially imposed social consequences.
You compare the consequences of actions with respect to a goal, in this case, the goal being well-being.
Oh, like, for example, homosexuality, engaging in the practice of spreading AIDS, which you said was...
Hang up on this piece of shit, please.
I have no objection to that.
Thank you.
For those who are saying that is running the show from the co-host chair, I'm happy to make that hang up.
It's also why I said
this
please.
This did not violate my consent in any way.
It's why I said please, and if Tracy had wanted to continue it, I would have sat here and played chess on my phone or something.
Yeah, I can't blame you for that one.
That's...
The Hyundai Kona with driver attention warning. Not available on Chevy Trax, Honda HR-V, or Jeep Renegade.
Lease a Kona for $129 a month, or get...
All right, we got Dean in North Carolina. How are you?
Hey, I'm doing good. Good to talk with you, Matt. And what's the other gentleman's name? Shane?
Shane, yeah.
Good to talk to you, too.
It says here what the call screen has written down is you say manuscript evidence for the New Testament, like the Dead Sea Scrolls. Why is it not accurate?
Yeah, so my point is, what I often hear is that we have copies of a copy of a copy from someone we don't know who's got a copy of a copy of a copy of a copy. And my question is, why do you think that the transmission of the New Testament is not accurate?
When did I say it wasn't accurate? What I'm saying is what I'm saying is that because we don't have originals, you can't say with any strong confidence how accurate it is to the original. Meanwhile, the Dead Sea Scrolls, when you're talking about the New Testament. So I don't know why. I mean, you're aware that there aren't New Testament documents in the Dead Sea Scrolls, right?
No, I understand that. I was just giving the call screener a synopsis of saying, okay, I'm talking about the accuracy of manuscript evidence like the Dead Sea Scrolls as an example, not that the Dead Sea Scrolls are the exact conversation I want to have.
Is it that you're comparing the fact that people look at these scrolls and use them to account for the past, and you're saying that, like, if we can do that with the Dead Sea Scrolls, why don't we do that with the New Testament? Is that what you're asking?
No, I was just using an example to the call here. What I'm asking is, the question I'm asking is, why would someone say, for instance, that, like Bart Ehrman, for instance, Bart Ehrman would say, you can't know what the New Testament actually says because they are riddled with manuscript errors. My question is twofold. Would you say that that's the case? And two, if you say that that's the case, why would you believe that they aren't accurate?
Well, for starters,
some of these books there, man.
Are you aware that the first writings about Jesus were, the first writings of the New Testament were 50 years after he had already died? So, like, they were using oral traditions to tell the story for 50 years. Are you aware of that?
Yeah.
Okay, so for 50 years, nothing was written down. Everyone was just repeating the story. And you said you know the telephone game. Would you agree with me that if we play the telephone game, the story is likely to get changed?
I would say in the modern way that we play the telephone game,
but not in the
designed. The game is designed. Okay, go ahead.
It's not a game. Okay. Are you suggesting that communication between humans in the past was somehow more likely to be accurate on details than modern humans?
No, what I'm saying is that the preservation of what was transmitted then is different than the way the telephone game is played. The telephone game is essentially a bad analogy.
But, the point is, it's not. So analogy means two things are being compared due to their similarities. They're not saying these two things are identical. But here's the quick summation. First of all, I don't know that Bart Ehrman would say what you think he would say. I think he, like a lot of other New Testament scholars, who I'm going to agree with, would say that what we have as a translation in modern Bibles is probably pretty accurate in most significant respects to what the originals likely said. However, we don't know what the originals said because we don't have them. And even if they were completely accurate to the originals, that has no bearing on whether or not what is in them is true.
Raymore and Flanagan has the solution for your best sleep yet. Get a free adjustable base with the purchase of select mattresses. Plus,
No, I agree with you there. My argument isn't necessarily the historicity of the document. I'm questioning why someone would say that they're not accurate. And
then you should talk to someone who has said that and ask them why they say that.
Yeah, well, I'm talking to Shane, and Shane's saying that it's like it's similar to the telephone game.
It is.
And I've said, okay, so the telephone game though is designed for the message to be confused.
Right. It's designed to illustrate the flaw in what you're doing or what you're referring to. It's illustrating the flaw in that method. So that's the same method, but it's just when we play the telephone game, we do it to illustrate that.
Yeah. The telephone game is a way to put a punctuation mark or shine a spotlight on problems in our communication. If you take 10 people who were at Woodstock and ask them to describe what happened, how much variation is there going to be in their story?
Oh, I don't know.
Well, it was 50 years ago.
I mean, I was taught the telephone game when I was in elementary school. It was taught to me in school to demonstrate that this is an ineffective way to tell if something's true, if this is how it's been passed on. But I understand, so it seems like you're agreeing with my criticism of the telephone game, but you're saying that this is different from that.
Yeah, I would say that the telephone game, the way that it is set up, that is inherently flawed because it's designed for the message.
Okay, so explain because we agree that it's flawed, explain what the flaw is in that method.
Gotcha. Okay, so the flaw in the telephone game is that, once the message is said, the person who has received the message cannot go back and ask the person who gave them the message, hey, could you clarify this, that, or the other?
And you don't think that happens in reality?
No, it's not about what happens in reality. It's about...
That's the only thing that matters is what happens in reality.
Right, I'm trying to see the difference in a scenario where people are playing the telephone game and the first 50 years of this story being passed down. Like, I'm trying to see what the difference is to you, because it's the same method of people just repeating the story. And it doesn't, like, people don't have to be intentionally dishonest. Matt can tell me something and I can repeat it back to you, and if I misunderstood him, then I'm going to tell you something wrong. Or he was wrong.
Right.
But
so I also think that there would be a difference. Let me finish the first point with the transmission, and then we'll talk about what you said.
Go for it.
So the problem with the telephone game, as I said, the person that receives the a message, you can't go back and check. The rule is you can't go back and check to the other person. You can't ask the person who said it before you or the 3 people that passed the message before you,
right?
Hey, what did you say? Whereas with specifically the scribes copying down the manuscripts.
No.
Can you talk to the first person that relayed this story?
We're talking about before there were manuscripts.
Right. Can you talk, because you're saying that the problem is you can't go back and talk to those people, and you're arguing for an example where that's exactly the case. No. You can't go back and talk to those people.
I'm simply talking about first the transmission of the scribes. Now, what you said are people that originally talked about these types of stories in the New Testament. Now, the difference, I would say, the difference between that and our culture is that given the roots of Christianity, there was a culture that was orally based. And what I mean by that is, by the age of 12, the Jewish men, or the teenagers, as we would call them today, were to memorize the Torah by heart, right? They could do that. So what you have in the preservation of these stories is you have a group of people who are already committed to being able to memorize large chunks of story.
Okay, so you are making an argument. Yeah. This is specifically... No, stop. This is specifically what I asked about earlier. That you're saying that there was something fundamentally different about the way human beings communicated in the past that made them more accurate with oral history. That's what I was asking about earlier.
And it seems like that something is that they did this more regularly, and you're talking about them using oral traditions more often. That's not because it was more effective, that's because they were illiterate. People who can't write are going to learn that way instead.
But you don't get to go back and appeal to what you think happened that may have preserved accuracy. You have to actually provide evidence that the accuracy was preserved, which you can't do, because here's the thing. If Jesus gets up there and stands and gives the Sermon on the Mount, then there's a bunch of people out there who can relay that information. What's the likelihood that a chunk of people are going to get it word for word?
Gotcha. Well, it's not a chunk of people. The closest people...
What's the likelihood that any one person standing there listening to the Sermon on the Mount is going to get it word for word right?
Oh, I don't know.
I do.
So how many times Jesus gave the Sermon on the Mount?
How many times?
He didn't give it just once.
No, the question.
Yes, he did give it just once. That's why it's called the Sermon on the Mount.
Yeah, but he could preach that sermon multiple times, Matt. Obviously.
You have no evidence of that. That's just a bullshit pulled out of your butt.
It's not.
It is.
It's not.
It is.
What rabbis did in the first century, Matt.
That doesn't make it accurate. To the fact that that's what they did, it's...
Well, Matt's saying that they only did it once, and I'm...
No, I'm not. No, I'm not. No, I'm not. No, I'm fucking not.
He said Stop. Jesus gave the sermon once.
I said you can't...
You're not gonna... Listen, Matt, I respect you, dude. You're not going to cuss at me. If you need to hang up, you need to hang up. Because you're not going to cuss at me like that.
I will fucking cuss at whoever the fuck I want. And if you don't fucking like it, you can fucking hang up. How's that?
Well, it sounds grand, but this is too important for me to just hang up because you've got a potty mouth.
So because you are worried about whether or not I use words that you like, you want me to hang up on you, but you won't hang up.
It's just a matter of respect.
Well,
so you're the one that
asks me to hang up.
It's a matter of respect here in that I'm trying to get to the point of something and point out where the flaw is. And you're sitting here just pulling stuff out of your butt saying, well, he could have given that sermon. You are. If you interrupt me again, I'm going to put you on hold, and then you're on hold now, and I will fucking curse at you as much as I fucking want while you stay on hold and fucking listen to it. I don't know why you're so worried about fucking words being problematic and saying I have a potty mouth. You know what I don't have? I don't have a brain that is going to make up excuses when the argument that I present is not rational. All I'm saying is that you want to claim, well, maybe Jesus gave this sermon many times. Okay, but if you have an audience, what is the likelihood that someone is going to get it word for word correct? Pretty low. That happens all the time. You can't even probably, well, as is evidenced by the conversation, You can't even relay back to me what I said word for word, or even get the actual encapsulated issue correctly. Because my issue is that you have no way to demonstrate that Jesus did, in fact, give the Sermon on the Mount multiple times. At most, you can come up with it as an ad hoc explanation for one possibility, which you cannot demonstrate. All you can do is say, hey, traveling rabbis may have given sermons many times over, and maybe Jesus gave the Sermon on the Mount many times over. But there are other events within this narrative in the Bible which are single event occurrences, not multiple events. It's not like here's a sermon that could have been given multiple times. You are busy coming up with whatever excuse you can, just out of thin air. Every time I say, hey, what's the likelihood that somebody gave a sermon and people got it word for word right? Well, they didn't just have to give it once. How do you know? How do you know that it wasn't given just once? You have no way of demonstrating that. We have no original manuscripts. So you want to look at how likely it was that they copied it accurately. And I've already conceded, as would many New Testament scholars, that they very likely copied it accurately. And not 100% accurately. We know there are variations in manuscripts. We can look at that. There's actual evidence. Shane brought up that the first writings were anywhere from 30 to 50 years afterwards, or at least decades afterwards, and wanted to talk about that oral history and how it was transferred, which is why I asked you a question about, are you appealing to people being different back then? And you said no. And then what did you do? You appealed to people being different back then. Oh, well, they had to learn this stuff. None of this gets to what was actually originally said. You have no way of demonstrating it. And here's the rub. If, in fact, anything about the story is true, or the key elements of the story is true, then there is a God who has an important message for humankind and chooses to reveal it in such a way that future generations cannot be confident that it is accurate, and instead have to come up with post hoc rationalizations and bullshit claims about, oh, well, maybe it was this, well, maybe it was this, well, maybe it was this. Why can't God, the governor of the universe, the creator of everything, the all-powerful, all-knowing being, communicate in a way where you and I would never have to have a conversation about how accurate is this book to the original?
Okay, so which part of that diatribe do you want me to address?
I don't know. Just pick
okay.
one.
So it's not. I would reject the notion that I'm simply pulling this possibility out of thin air, given that even New Testament scholars like Bart Ehrman, like Craig Evans, like Michael Licona, who you've debated, Matt.
Yes, I've debated Michael Licona, and Michael Licona stood up and talked about Ouija boards and trash can lids in a debate about the resurrection. Don't reference him as if he's some icon of reasoned argument, because he's not. It was garbage.
Okay, but New Testament scholars would certainly agree that as you look into the history of the time of the first century and the process of which itinerant rabbi preachers operated, that they simply didn't give one sermon one time. It was kind of like a stump speech, right? So you have candidates that go around from place to place. They give the same.
You are completely.
Same thing takes place.
No. No. Sorry, you're on hold again. Let me try to be more clear. I'm not saying it didn't. It isn't. I'm not saying Jesus didn't give this speech more than once. I'm saying you have no way to show that he did give it more than once, and that means that it is a post hoc thing. You can say, hey, it could have been like a stump speech. Okay, it could have been. How do you demonstrate that it was? Because until you can demonstrate that it was, you don't get to use that to claim that what we have is accurate.
Okay, so in appealing to the historical context and the historical probability that that's what happened, you would say that that's not enough to posit that it's probably true that Jesus gave these sermons more than once.
Correct.
A fair question?
Correct.
Okay.
And by the way, as I pointed out in the diatribe, the part that you skipped right over to address the part that you thought you could, there are single instance events, the wedding at Cana, that He didn't do the wedding at Cana multiple times, did he? Was he a wedding magician?
No.
Okay, so the facts of that being reported.
His speeches. We're talking about his speeches, is what we're talking about.
So
You mentioned,
if you pull up a red letter Bible, how many of those do you think are something that he gave multiple times?
If I pulled up a red letter Bible as far as the speech sections, I would say he probably did a Sermon on the Mount at least.
I didn't say. Oh my God! It's like your brain will not let you address the question that you're asked. If you pull up a red letter Bible, for those who aren't familiar, a red letter Bible is one, when you go through the New Testament, highlights the words that are supposedly actually spoken by Jesus in red. What percentage of those red letters, which are supposedly direct quotes, are parts of speeches that you think he gave multiple times?
I would say that the multiple occasions are those in which he takes place either like Sermon on the Mount, hillside gatherings. I would say instances where he is cleansing the temple.
Dean, are you capable of listening to a question and answering the question you were asked? Because you're not.
Yeah, I actually am.
No, you actually fucking aren't. I'm saying.
It's a compliment there too.
What percentage of red letter words attributed to Jesus do you think are part of speeches that he gave multiple times? That's what I said. Not which speeches. What percentage of the red letter?
Well, you would have to pare that down because each section of the red letter takes place in a different context.
Jesus fucking Christ.
I'm just being straight. That's how you.
No, you're not being straight. This is a simple question that allows the conversation to move forward instead of putting up the roadblocks and hand waving.
I'm not putting up
roadblocks. Yes, you are. What percentage of red letters in the New Testament would you estimate are part of speeches that Jesus gave multiple times?
I don't know because of the.
You should go learn.
The speeches took place.
We got an honest answer at the end there, so gonna give credit where credit's due.
That is, yeah.
Sometimes the correct answer is I don't know, and when you don't come in acting like you do. That's all I'm saying.
Well, it's not an issue of not being able to know. It's an issue of what's the context of the speech being given.
No, it's not.
Okay, so
it's not. If you acknowledge that, let's say you think 10% is something that are single occurrence events, at least you would have given me a number of what your estimate was. And then I would have said, okay, that means 10% of what is red letter was a single occurrence, which does not fit your preferred model of transition for accuracy. And so what likelihood is there that that portion, that 10% portion, is accurate? And then we would have had to acknowledge that we can't be particularly confident in that 10%. I think it's much more. I think it's overwhelmingly single instance things. We're talking about a biography of someone's purported life. And even if you know, this is why if you go to the Sermon on the Mount and you want to claim that, oh, he gave this sermon multiple times, well, you don't have any evidence for that. But even if I grant you that does not tell us how accurate it is. Because there are politicians now that can run around and give stump speeches, and people don't give it accurate. And literally, in this conversation, I have been asking very specific questions, which you have failed to even approach an answer that would be consistent with the question. So either you're not listening, I am the world's worst communicator, or there's something else going on that shows that when you listen to something, even if I repeat it, that does not necessarily mean that you're going to get it correct.
Okay, so in this conversation, the only thing that I've tried to lay out is the following. One, that the New Testament has been accurately transmitted. That doesn't mean that what's in it is historical. Second, I'm simply saying, with regards to Shane's objection with the 50-year gap, that these things could have been preserved through oral tradition, given the nature of the culture of that time. That's when we got off into Jesus' stump speech or whatnot.
And that's when you started saying that it was somehow more effective for them to use the same method. You were saying it was people doing the same thing. You're just saying they were better at it back then. And that's why Matt asked you, do you think there was something different in the way people were communicating to one another verbally at that time than they are now?
It's also
that's where oral tradition.
No, it's also flawed. This is the thing. When you make those appeals to oral tradition, when you talk about by the age of 12 there were young Jews who knew the Torah verbatim, that's because the Torah was written down and they spent time in school learning it verbatim, or in temple learning it verbatim. That is not the same as hearing a speech and getting it right, or even hearing it multiple times. Because even if Jesus gave the Sermon on the Mount multiple times, that doesn't mean that there was somebody necessarily there who was going to hear it multiple times. And it's not the same as, here it is written down, let me read it to you, let me go through this. Even if you're illiterate, I will teach you this. We'll go through it until you can recite it. Teaching someone by going through something that's written down until they can give it back to you verbatim is fundamentally different from, I'm going to give my speech a few times and hope that you guys manage to get it correct.
And I'm sorry to have to point this out, but this I think is going to help illustrate my point. You're familiar with the verse Exodus 20:13, right? I mean, if you don't know which one, okay, yeah, thou shalt not kill in the King James Version. Okay.
Right.
Do you know what it says in the New King James Version? Same verse.
Murder.
Right. It says you shall not murder. So let's stop and think about that. Do the word kill and the word murder mean the same thing?
No, they don't.
Right. So one of them could be wrong, because one of them is saying don't kill, which is don't kill under any circumstance, self-defense, go to war, etc. But then the other one says you shall not murder. Well, murder is just the unlawful, or some would argue the unjustified killing of another person by another. So we're reading the same book in the same language, but two different translations in the same language, you get a different meaning from the same verse.
No, I think that what you're bringing up as far as biblical translations is a valid objection.
Okay, yes, thank you. But what I'm saying is that objection applies even more so when it's not being written down.
Because at least when we look at the different English translations, like Shane's got one that says kill, I've got one that says murder. How do we resolve what is likely to be the original intent? Well, we would go back and look at the original Hebrew that it was written in, and look at Hebrew dictionaries and talk to experts in the Hebrew language. And the best they can do right now is give us what modern Hebrew, how that would be interpreted, and what they believe was probably intended in ancient Hebrew.
Yeah, do some research on the love thy neighbor, on the Hebrew meaning of that.
But they can go back to this and say, look, in the oldest and best manuscripts that we have, given what we understand about the time, this almost certainly meant murder as opposed to kill. But that is a pathway to resolving a potential conflict, to get to what the original meaning probably meant, that all of us are fine with. That does not exist when you don't have the originals, when you have that gap where they're telling stories. And this is why you and others are going to say, well, maybe he gave the Sermon on the Mount many, many times, and that increases the likelihood that somebody got it right. That is a post hoc rationalization that we don't have evidence for. I'm not saying it's impossible that it happened. I'm saying that this is presented in the Bible contextually, and I'll go back and do more research on this as well, but it's presented as a one-time incident. There's no indication in the Bible that Jesus gave this sermon multiple times. It is presented as a specific audience. Now, I can't show that he didn't give it multiple times, but we can be relatively confident that a good chunk of what's in there that supposedly came from him wasn't given multiple times, and the things that aren't in red letters aren't even supposed to be quotes. They're just people trying to portray the ideas as accurately as they can. And so at the end, as I noted earlier, I'm going to agree that even modern English translations of the Bible are probably mostly accurate to our best approximation of originals. However, we can't demonstrate where the inaccuracies might be, and it could be something as simple as a no that inverts a meaning, or it just might be something that's largely irrelevant. And none of that fucking matters, because what matters is is it true? Because Muslims can point back and say, hey, we have a completely accurate copy of the Quran because we have essentially the originals, or we have, a shorter gap between the originals and the first written ones and less variation among our manuscripts. And so when they make that argument, and the Muslims say, look, our holy book, we have far more confidence that it is more accurate to the original than anything available in Christianity or Judaism. Well, then the response to that is, yes, but your religion's newer or whatever else. But at the end of the day, the real question is the one I asked earlier. How does it make sense that there is a God who, knowing that these problems are going to happen, knowing that languages are going to change, knowing that languages are going to die out, knowing that the Muslims are going to come along with their false doctrine and claim that it's more accurate to the original, and that, you and I are going to be having a telephone conversation where, you're arguing for a point that I find absolutely irrelevant in the grander scheme. How is it that God doesn't fix this? That is the portion that is absolutely absurd. To think that there's a God that has an important message for everybody, and there's no guarantee that the message is right, that the message is from him, that he doesn't seem to do anything to clarify disagreements, which is why you end up with thousands upon thousands of different denominations, all within Christianity.
Right. So, no, I think that is a significant question that you raised, Matt, with regards to the preservation or the passing down of an important message. And I think that, one of the ways that it could potentially be answered, I'm not saying that this is the answer, but I don't know if it follows, and I'm not accusing you of saying this, but I don't know that it follows that just because you have a perfect God, that you would have to have something that has been preserved perfectly. It could just simply be preserved sufficiently for what we need. And with regards to the multiple denominations,
how can it be sufficient if people are getting it wrong? How can it be sufficient?
Right.
How can it be sufficient if Christians are debating soteriology?
And are you conceding that it's not the perfect word? That we don't have access to a perfect translation?
What's there is sufficient, but with regards to
sufficient but not perfect
variants, with variants and things like that, I'm saying that it could be preserved in a sufficient manner, even though people who copy it or people who form multiple denominations, that might be imperfect.
But
so,
how can it be sufficient if there's disagreement? Soteriology is the study of what one must do to be saved. That is not agreed upon among different Christian denominations. They will point to different parts of the book. So how could you possibly argue that the book is sufficient to its goal, if the goal is salvation, if there is still disagreement among honest, well-intentioned Bible scholars about what the book's position is?
Right. So that has to do not necessarily with the book. That more has to do with the free will of the people who are seeking to that has to do with free will choices that man use when they come to the book. For instance, you could have somebody.
No.
The Bible.
No.
No. Yes. You can sit no.
I'm saying no to try to get you to shut the fuck up so I can explain why this was wrong. God,
so free will,
if God,
with regards to somebody,
God cannot be.
What they're going to follow.
Okay, your ass is on hold again. You don't get to put the blame on humans because God is responsible for that as well. If God has a message and wants to convey it in a way that is sufficient instead of, accurate, which is what would be really nice, but is sufficient, you don't get to say the message is sufficient, but these human beings got it wrong because of their free will. If that's the case, then the message isn't sufficient because we're talking about well-intentioned, honest people who want to seek God and want to know what God wants to say about salvation. If that is the problem, you don't get to put the blame on the human beings and claim that God did something that is sufficient, because I could do something better than what God did that would actually convey what my thoughts are to every human being. And that might still be insufficient, but at least I could do that.
So essentially what you're saying then is people are not responsible for the free will actions that they take towards interpreting.
First of all,
that's not even in the fucking ballpark of what I just said.
That's completely separate from what he said, and you're also. I should point out that you're.
That's what you said.
No, that is not.
That's not what he said.
I'm gonna put your ass back on hold and let Shane explain to you what I said.
This is what he's going through, and I think I can help illustrate with this with an analogy. He was talking about why someone who wanted people to understand this would choose this method to do it. And I'd like to ask you a question, and I want you to just consider this analogy that I'm going to give you and give me your answer. If you were a teacher, you worked at a school, and one of the teachers who, this is your coworker, was teaching a class by selecting 4 students, maybe 5 students, giving them the lesson, and telling them, you go teach the rest of the class. Would you criticize that teacher for using that method to teach algebra, or would you consider it equally as efficient as teaching the whole class? That's what Matt was trying to illustrate to you.
Okay, so then what you're saying then is it's not you can't lay the blame on the person for the use of free will.
It's not for the use of free will, no, because he's talking about us being flawed beings, but who made us flawed? Who made it the case that we couldn't fully understand this?
Right. So once again.
Right. So it's not about free will. And I don't believe in free will, but I don't think that free will is in the same ballpark as what we're talking about here. We're talking about the ability to understand this message efficiently.
Even if, so let's play hypothetical. God gives a perfect inerrant word. He also endows people with free will. Are there people that would take that book and manipulate the book so that they might gain certain authority?
Thanks for proving my point.
Okay, first of all, again, you're not addressing the question that's being asked. And regardless of that, I'll answer your question. Yes, people probably would do that. However, that's not what we were talking about, and we're not going to change the subject to that. What we were talking about was this being the method used to understand it. You're saying God wants everyone to understand this. That's your belief, right? God wants everyone to accurately understand this. Is that what you're saying?
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, but he chose a way which is insufficient.
I would disagree that it's insufficient.
Okay, but you disagreed with my criticism of the telephone game, and you accurately answered when I asked you what was wrong with the telephone game. And what I'm saying is you got the answer right, but the answer applies to this too.
See, the question was, how can it possibly be sufficient if there are 2 honest, devout, sincere individuals who want to know what God thinks, who read the book and don't agree?
Because a person doesn't have to intentionally misinterpret it. Like, somebody doesn't have to intentionally say that the Bible says something it doesn't say, translate it inaccurately. A person can mean to do it honestly and make errors.
And if the tool for communication to those 2 individuals is ambiguous or subject to interpretation and misunderstandings among even honest people, how could you ever say that it is sufficient to the task that you set it to?
Well, you could say that it's sufficient to the task that it's set to, even if you had honest individuals.
No, you can't, because we've started with. I swear I'll just drop you.
Just drop me then. Do what you got to do. I don't care.
I will, you little punk ass. But because I know you won't hang up, I'm gonna put you on hold and make you listen. Now I own you. You're on hold. The purpose, as acknowledged, was for God to communicate to everyone. You already acknowledged that. Oh, he hung up. Sorry. You already acknowledged that the purpose was for God to communicate this message to everyone. Okay? That's step 1. God wants to communicate to everyone. That is the task. The only way the message is sufficient to the task is if the message is clear enough that everyone can understand it. After that, you can get to willful disregard. You can get to willful changes. But you cannot take two people who, like, if Shane and I are studying a book on music theory, and we look at it, and we both really want to understand music theory, and we have the same text, and we look at it, and we come to two dramatically different understandings about it.
Which has happened with us with interpretations of the Bible. There are verses that we disagree on what they mean.
Yeah.
And we're reading the same, not only the same book, the same translation.
And so if that's the case, then you could say one of us is just not very bright or very wrong. But you can't say that it's an exercise of free will that one of us is intentionally trying not to understand it.
Right.
But if there's a God, and that God is capable of making both of us understand this correctly, and instead of taking the method that is sufficient to ensure an accurate understanding for each of us, instead uses a demonstrably inferior method such that we don't come to correct understanding, it ain't our fault. If you write a book that's not good enough for the very thing that you're trying to teach, that's your fault. And if you make an argument that is insufficient to demonstrate your case, that's your fault.
And back to my teacher analogy, if a teacher gives a lesson and every student in the class gets a different interpretation of it, you blame the teacher.
Yeah.
So,
but the other thing about his analogy that's great, that fits in there, is, yeah, if you were to teach 4 of the students and have them instruct everybody else, that's a lazy fucking teacher.
right.
That is somebody who's not doing their job. And if one of the, like one of the 4 students taught another person and they understood it, cool. We're not saying you can't do that.
Right.
Maybe everybody in the class could understand, but it's clear that we have an issue where not even the 4 people necessarily agree, and the rest of the class doesn't come to the same understanding. And you're going to say, it's that class.
Yeah.
It's their free will.
And if they start killing each other over who got the right answer, then I think it's the teacher who should be held responsible.
Absolutely.
So.
All right. So that was a really long call.
Really rough.
I think the show.
Because we love you, Raul.
Raul.
Look.
The new Hyundai Sonata with remote smart parking assist. You won't find that on Accord, Camry, or Altima.
Lease a Sonata for $129 a month or get 0% APR for 72 months.
Raul, I just thought I'd go here on my thing. I was a most Christian for 15 plus years. For the majority of my life. I was in the jail for 15 years.
Yeah.
I'm well aware of what's the argument here. It's not being wrong. It's you're coming up with things, either constellations, which I thought the dice example would solve that, or now you're suggesting, hey, Josephus proves that Jesus came down here and died. No, Josephus doesn't. Josephus wasn't alive at that time. So all you have is a historian telling us what other people believed. And even if there was somebody named Jesus who was killed for claiming to be God and murdered on a cross, that still doesn't prove that he was God.
Matt, can I say one thing regarding that question? The reason that they believed, and we still believe in Christ, was because of the miracles that he did.
You have no evidence. You have no evidence of miracles. What miracle can you prove that Jesus did?
Well, there's a Roman, I don't know who he was, who said there's this man doing miracles. But if you guys don't believe any of that, okay. I appreciate the call. I mean, what can I say, man? You guys, I thought it would be, you would say, well, I hadn't thought of that, that there's, I don't know, the constellations, and I thought it would be just, you wouldn't have to get angry about it,
We're not angry.
That's what I thought.
Can I say something? Raul, Matt, I think, and I certainly appreciate that you called in because you wanted to have a conversation, you wanted to share your thoughts, you wanted to explore this subject with some folks that you thought might have an interesting perspective. You thought that we were worth your time and that the viewers in the audience might enjoy it and might get something out of it. It may not have gone the way that you wanted it to go. We may not have convinced you that your beliefs are maybe insufficiently founded, and you may not have convinced us that the constellations are proof. But we're having the conversation anyway, and I enjoyed it. I really do think you need to look into that that phenomenon of the mind, of pattern seeking, because I think that might go a long way to explaining the mystery of the constellations for you, perhaps.
And the other thing is, don't assume just because. So first of all, there's a lot of problems with the lag in the phone system and everything else, and trying to talk over each other. And cell phones don't do good duplicate, so you're probably on a cell phone, and so you didn't even hear me trying to interrupt the search points. And I've got to put people on mute. Don't assume that we're angry. Legitimately, I've heard, like, there's nothing that came out of your mouth that I haven't heard at least a dozen times in the last 15 years, and these were all things that countless other people have thought of and for centuries. But to suggest that, you know, a lot of people are like I used to be when I was a Christian, and that was, I believed that this book, the Bible, was inspired by God. This actually is my Bible from 1981 onward, and so it's got all my highlights and everything else. It even has a sticker here that I did in 1987 when we were at Camp Windermere, although it may not show up well on screen because I have green screen. I believe that this book was inspired by God, and I believe that everything in it was true and useful for teaching, because that's what the book says. And then much, much later in life, after 20 some odd years, nearly 30 or 25 plus years of believing it, I started to find out that, hey, there are things in here that aren't particularly moral. There are things in here that have no evidence to support that they're true outside of this book. Like, for example, who wrote the book, The Gospel of Matthew?
Right, I don't know, sir. I'm sorry.
Nobody knows. That's the point. And kudos to you for getting that. Like, if you open up a New International Version, or you go to earlychristianwritings.com or anything else, it will point out that we have no idea who wrote Matthew. Who wrote Mark? We don't know. Who wrote Luke? We don't know. Who wrote John? We're not completely sure. And so you have the four Gospels, the ones that are telling the story of Jesus, three of which tell the same story and borrow from each other, and one which is significantly different, and nobody knows who the authors of these were, and all the best dating methods show that these things were written decades, if not an entire century afterwards for some of the other books. It's the things that people are taught and told in church, and the assumptions that people make about the way the world works under a religious model simply are not true, are not supported by evidence. And this is all we're trying to get to on the show. You are not the first person to call in about constellations or to think that Josephus proves Jesus. And none of us are angry about it. If anything, I am genuinely frequently frustrated, both with the problem of trying to have a conversation over the internet, but also that I can ask someone a question, a straightforward question, and get two different answers, depending on whether or not their brain is trying to protect them from discovering that they're wrong. And this is why I did the dice example on the floor, because finding that face, that dog's face in the dice or in the sky, to say that this pattern that we spotted is significant and proof of God, but the other pattern that we spotted is not proof of God, demonstrates that neither of those patterns on its own can be proof of God. There needs to be something else. That was all I was trying to get to. I'm sorry if you thought we were angry, but we completely run out of time, and I got to let you go. And call us back another time. We'll try to do it again better.
Okay, sir.
Keep digging, Ronald. Keep looking for answers.
I sure will, Johnny. Thank you, Johnny and Matt. Thank you. Okay.
Thanks, Ronald.
Good to talk to you.
You can look for the answers all you want, bro. They're not there. No answers are there.
5 years ago, Richard and I were asked to speak together at Stanford University in the United States. And Richard...
Don't let Joe Biden tax away your rights.
Guess what? If you elect me, you're not going to have your taxes are going to be raised, not cut.
Especially if you were a gun owner. Joe Biden's plan? Confiscate your firearms unless you pay up. He could cost you thousands to keep your guns. Don't let Joe Biden tax away your rights.
When we started Carvana, they told us that selling cars 100% online wouldn't work. But we went to work, building an experience that so you think that you can tell us how to live our lives, never questioning the thoughts from which your Bible closed your eyes. You think that suffering is part of some great plan that's been devised. I wonder, I wonder, I wonder, I wonder.
Fall in that decision is entirely up to you.
I didn't feel like having the conversation 100 times because
And they ask questions, say, yeah, I don't, proud because you're her best spiritual accomplishment. She raised a good, God-fearing son who's going to go to heaven, is going to be sharing the truth of Jesus and the Holy Spirit with the world. And now you're getting ready to tell her, yeah, that shit ain't happening. And that's not going to go over well.
Can I make two recommendations really quickly? Have you heard of street epistemology?
Absolutely. I've been watching, Matt has mentioned it a couple of times, so I went down watching some more. So absolutely, I know a lot about it.
Awesome. And then Matt also recommends a lot Recovering from Religion. Have you found that one as well?
I have not, no.
That's a nonprofit that people volunteer to basically, people like you and me who have come to this side and understand what it's like to be kind of freaked out and lost. Those kind of people are on the other end and they can be there to talk to you. They're not therapists, but they're peers that can relate to you and help you.
Although the Recovering from Religion organization is also tied to the Secular Therapist Project. And one reason to encourage people like you, Hunter, to get involved is initially you'll have access to people who have spent some time studying how best to talk to people in your situation and to point you to resources of other people who've been in your situation. But as you move forward and as your situation changes, you may very well be one of the people who becomes a volunteer for Recovering from Religion to help other people who are in the situation that you're in now.
No, yeah, that sounds awesome. I appreciate, Jenna, thank you for the recommendation, and Matt as well. Yeah, I really appreciate it. This has been a lot of, because I've just kind of been this weird, I don't have a lot of secular friends. I just moved to Ohio, COVID, I've been locked in my apartment doing my job, and all my friends are BS. And it's, I watch the show as much as I can to, get some, I guess, comfort and some wisdom, but this has been super helpful. I genuinely appreciate both of you.
We're very glad that you're help. I'm gonna let you go, Hunter, and we're gonna move on to some other callers. But please reach out to us when something changes and you've got some kind of update or further questions. But thank you.
Absolutely, Matt and Jenna. Thank you. You guys have a great rest of the day.
Thanks, you too.
It's a common question, it's one we get a lot, and ultimately it's up to each individual to figure out who they're going to be and how they're going to be out and what their family situation is. I've heard horror stories of, particularly of younger people just being disowned and kicked out. But I've also heard some incredibly inspiring stories where just the mere ability and capacity for you as an individual to be out and open about the fact that you're not religious, that you don't believe these supernatural claims, is enough to make some other people within the family who have been having doubts and having concerns and being terrified to say anything, it can embolden them to reach out. Now, I can say this. In my immediate family, or my close family, is huge. Like, my mom has, there were 4 children in that family, same thing on my dad's, and then there's uncles and aunts and kids. I mean, we would have euchre tournaments at somebody's house with 50 people, and there was nobody there who wasn't family. I mean, and Christmas was a big deal, and so much so that we do it multiple times. I mean, Christmas Eve here, Christmas Day here, then Christmas Day evening here. Of that extended family of, let's say, 60, more than half a dozen of them have privately reached out to let me know that they share my views largely, or they do not share the religious views of other portions of the family, etc. And others have been just nothing but loving, saying, hey, I don't agree with you, but I'm not going to hold it against you. And there were rifts in our family where there were people who I thought and had been led to believe did not want to interact with me at all. And so, in the interest of largely keeping the peace and not wanting the conflict, I didn't hang out with those family members. And last year, or a couple of years ago, after a funeral, I sat down with one of my aunts and found out that's not the case at all. And so there's many, many years of lost relationship stuff that was all because somebody else decided to speak on behalf of other members of the family. And by all means, you care about people, talk to them. Don't get it secondhand.
Well, that's the sad thing, is that you are probably going to lose relationships. But what I do is I just try to make sure that I'm not the reason that those relationships end. That I don't give them what I consider a logical reason to end a relationship. It's like, for example, I had a really good friendship with somebody in my family, and they said that we can't talk because we have nothing to talk about anymore. Like, well, I mean, if you really feel like that, well, then I guess we don't.
That's extra sad because, like, the last couple times that Jenna and I have hung out, I don't think we've talked about God or religion at all. It's about other things that are going on in our life. And so when somebody's like, oh, well, I can't talk to you because now we have nothing to talk about, I'm like, are you not alive? Are you not living in, sharing a country and oxygen with me? Is there nothing else? Not even sports or the weather, the little pedestrian things? No, nothing? Fine. In that case, I'd much rather have Jenna in my life because we don't seem to have too much difficulty finding shit to talk about.
Yeah, it's sad.
We've got a couple of calls that are, I think, going to be similar, and I want to talk about, I guess we'll start with Nat in Mexico, who wants to talk about a grounding of ethics. How are you, Nat?
Oh, hey Matt, I'm great. It's awesome being here. I've been trying to get in the show for, I don't know, like, sporadically for, like, years, actually.
Well, today you made it, and you made it when Jen is on, so what more could you ask for?
Yay!
Well, hi, Jen. Hi, Jen.
Hi.
You guys. I once called Talk Haven, and I talked a little bit about this stuff. I used to be an atheist, not just an atheist, I used to be Satanist. So, and one of the things that I was most interested in was grounding ethics from an atheistic point of view, and I know there's many subtleties, but I've been getting at it for a bit of a time now, and I'm very confident that there's no way to justify an ethics as an ethics itself from that point of view.
Well, if that's true, then if that's true,
and I just.
So if that's true, Nat, then there's no way to justify ethics from any point of view, because I'm not aware of any objection to secular moral system. Hang on. I'm not aware of any objection to secular morals that is in any way solved by appealing to a deity or a god. So I guess quickly, what kind of Satanist were you, and why were you an atheist? And I guess then we can talk about the grounding of ethics.
Well, yeah, I used to be a Laveyan Satanist.
Sure.
And I don't remember what was the other question. Sorry, Matt.
Well, I mean, you say you used to be an atheist, which is somebody who doesn't believe, and that means that you must have become convinced and become a believer. And I'm curious what it was that changed your mind.
Well, it was an approach to a different form of theism. I think kind of philosophically. So I think, for example, Yahweh, Jesus, Allah, all of those are forms of the divine, but they are not the divine itself, like the essential aspect of the divine. And I think that the essential part of the divine has to do with being. I read some Paul Tillich's writings which go into it. So I'm fairly convinced that that's not only existing, but actually kind of unavoidable if you look at it close enough.
Okay.
And because I couldn't get around certain things that are very fundamental to being in a society, like ethics, free will, consciousness, all of those things that are very of interest to people. I don't not only didn't see a solution under atheists, that I found it honest and rational, but actually on the other side, I saw it.
So it seems like you didn't become a theist because you found evidence for theism. You became a theist because you were convinced that theists offered solutions to things that atheism doesn't offer a solution to.
It's cool. I do
Messed up.
my understanding of the theism that I do have a solution. It's not just that theism doesn't have it, but theism does.
So all right. So here, just to make this easiest, state a problem with with ethics, with morality, that you think your theism solves, and yet atheism doesn't. Because atheism isn't a position on secular morality at all.
Yeah, sure. One of those would be why do things that are in benefit of other people when you would benefit more from abstaining to do them or to do something that's contrary to the benefit of another person.
This is gonna have a lot of books on this one.
We can get
Not as many books as this one.
Can you just describe a particular ethical problem that you think can only be solved by appealing to theism?
Sure, which is every ethical issue itself is.
Well, then it should be easy. So.
But this does have a lot of books, and my God, it's taking a long time to get these lines straight.
So, who says there is an obligation in the first place?
Well, if there's not an obligation, it becomes a matter of practical.
But most of the lines are straight.
Yes. Practical resolution.
And next I can start adding some letters.
You don't get to say that's not. You don't get to say that's not ethical, because now you're just saying that you are uncomfortable. You don't like what things look like under atheism. Well, that's too bad, because that's not a demonstration that's not true. So when somebody says, "Hey," well, I don't care if it's not just that. That's what you started with, so I'm addressing that. I can't address the things you haven't presented yet. But if you started with something that's a really bad idea.
But I'm not saying that because it's uncomfortable, it's not true.
Proud, because you're her best spiritual accomplishment. That you think can only be solved by appealing to theism.
Sure, which is every ethical issue itself is.
Well, then it should be easy. So.
Why be ethical? Oh, okay. The obligation to be ethical itself.
I don't. So who says there is an obligation in the first place?
Well, if there's not an obligation, it becomes a matter of practical.
Yes.
Practical resolution, which is not ethical itself.
No. You don't get to say that's not. You don't get to say that's not ethical, because now you're just saying that you are uncomfortable or you don't like what things look like under atheism. Well, that's too bad, because that's not a demonstration that's not true. So when somebody says, "Hey,"
but it's not just that.
Well, I don't care if it's not just that. That's what you started with, so I'm addressing that. I can't address the things you haven't presented yet. But if you started with something that's a really bad idea.
But I'm not saying that because it's uncomfortable, it's not true. I'm saying that ethics, as the idea we have, has to do with obligations, like.
No, it doesn't.
Do this or that.
No, it doesn't. Where does the obligation come from?
Where does the obligation come from?
Yes. Let's start with something. Let's start with Nat. Stop. Let's start with something easy. Let's start with, you and I both think, I hope, that we should not set each other on fire That it would be immoral for you to set me on fire, and it would be immoral for me to set you on fire. Do we agree on that?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Now, setting aside why it would be immoral, what obligation is there for me to follow that moral conclusion?
Well, what precisely do you mean by it's immoral? Because I think that we have an issue here on definitions because...
Well, we just agreed that it was immoral, and so the reason we just agreed that it was immoral, so why it's immoral doesn't matter right now. What I'm talking about is what obligation do either of us have to act consistent with that moral decision?
What up, bro?
So how would you ground an obligation to be ethical?
Yes.
Well, that's a very interesting question that I do have an issue with under taste, and it's one of the... It's a hard one because I don't think it's a rational obligation. It's not because obligations cannot be rational in that sense. I don't think that they can.
I don't agree with you at all that obligations can't be rational. I'm asking. So you called me. Talk about this. What is the grounding of ethics?
Shit. I got up to take a piss and couldn't go back to sleep. Like, fuck it, might as well go sit in the studio for a little while. I've been here almost 2 hours. It's fucking 5 o'clock, yeah. I've been up for a minute. But this whole crazy shit without working, bro, like, now my sleeping pattern all fucked up because I can just sleep all day if I want to. Well, no, it didn't get worse. It was bad from the jump. Like, it was I did blow out my Achilles tendon, yo. I had to have surgery to get that shit back together, yo. So it ain't got worse. It was real bad to start with. Oh yeah. Yeah, that shit. That's a cast. You know, like I say, man, that fucking surgery. I'm trying to help somebody, bro. Had to have surgery behind that shit, bro. That shit been crazy too, dog. And the pain, oh my god. It's the pain getting a little bit lighter day by day, but like the day after my surgery, boy, it felt like somebody shot me in the foot, nigga. Yo. Boy, that shit was so bad. I mean, the pain was so bad, yo. But yesterday, they say I can take 4 pain pills a day. But yesterday, I only took 2 pain pills all day, yo. And today, I'm trying to take 1 pain pill all day. And wean myself off that shit already. I got ass in them shits, but I ain't about to be taking all them medication, yo. I just deal with the pain. Fuck that. Yo, that's his problem. Sorry for you, bruh. That's your own problem now, homie. Yeah. Yeah, don't help nobody push no cars, yo. Especially in heavy traffic. It's not a good idea. Mm-mm. Now I wonder how much my fucking surgery bill gonna cost, yo. I mean, I got pretty good insurance, but I know they're gonna ask for, like, I think my Might have to pay like $1,500 on that shit or something. But still. I didn't break my leg. I tore my Achilles tendon, yo. I'm trying to help somebody push a car. Yo, great. Bruh. Pain, like I say, bro, the pain is, and then it's crazy, like, when that shit happened, like, when I first fucking tore that shit, like, the moment it happened, and I heard the snap, it's like I felt pain, but it wasn't until I tried to move my fucking, cause I paused for a second, I'm like, I heard that shit pop, I'm like, oh shit, what the fuck was that? Then I tried to move my foot, I was like, oh my god, y'all almost fell to the fucking ground, yo. But anyway, I fucking, I hobbled my ass back to my car, drove off. I ain't gonna lie, yo. Like, it was right after work, yo. And my plan was, I had it in my mind, like, I'm gonna go to the liquor store before I go home. That's the only thing I had to do, like, after work. Like, I'm gonna stop by the liquor store, I'm gonna get me a bottle, and then I'll go to the house. But then I wound up trying to help this person push their car, fuck my leg up. And so I'm in the car, I'm damn near about to cry, yo. I ain't gonna lie, yo. Yo, this shit hurts so bad, yo. I'm about to fucking cry. And I told myself, well, I'm still about to go get this bottle, yo. Fuck that. So I was trying to help somebody push your car, yo. So I still wind up going to the fucking liquor store, right? So I'm limping up in that bitch. What the fuck was that? Here's something fall. So the security guard is like, he just, spoke to me. He was like, hey, how's it going? I'm like, yo, what's up? Pretty good. He see me walking, he was like, yo, look like you're doing too good. I was like, I don't know, bro. I was like, something just happened, man. I think I tore my Achilles tendon. He's like, really? I said, that's what the shit feels like. He was like, nah. If you tore your Achilles tendon, you wouldn't even be able to walk right now. I'm like, you sure? He was like, yeah, you probably just sprained your ankle real bad. Because he's like, that shit'd be so painful, you would be on the ground. I'm like, yeah, you probably right. So I just bought my bottle, limped my ass back to the house and tried to call my doctor and shit. And then come to find out, it was my fucking Achilles tendon. Blown the fuck out, yo. Snapped that bitch in half. So, I don't know. My threshold of pain ain't that fucking high, yo. Like I said, that shit damn near made me cry, bro. I said, it felt like I got shot. And then the surgery, that shit was crazy. Bro, it was a slight little incline on the street. It's not going up a hill, but if you were on the street and you put your car in neutral, it would roll back a little bit. You know what I'm saying? And then it wasn't even a car. It was like it was like a compact SUV. I can't remember exactly what it was. So I'm trying to push this shit, right? Because the lady is stalled out in traffic. So I'm just trying to help. I get out, hey, you want me to help you push your car? She was like, sure. But the lane of traffic we're in, we got to cut across a lane of traffic to get to a gas station parking lot. I mean, she was literally like, where her car was stalled at, the gas station she's right beside the gas station. All we got to do is fucking go across the lanes and I can push her right into the fucking gas station. So I say, you got it in neutral? She said, yeah. I say, put your foot on the brake till I start pushing. I was like, all right, I'm ready. Take your foot off the brake. So I started pushing the car, right? And she's cutting the wheel, and it's coming. And then the traffic behind us was backed up because she was stalled out in traffic. And so I'm trying to push the car, and then the car comes from behind us and zooms around, trying to beat the light. And then when it comes, she hits the brake, And, you know, all of a sudden she hits the brake and the car jerks, but I got all my fucking, bro, I'm leaning. I'm at an angle because I'm really trying to push, like, and then when that brake hit, yo, my knees locked and my ankle just slid back, yo, like, pop. I'm like, yo, and it was just like something so easy, bro, like just pushing the car. But how I had myself positioned in that very moment when that car jerked back, like my knees didn't bend, and just all that force just pushed back on me still, yo, and popped my fucking ankle, yo. I was like, oh my God, yo. Yo, that shit was crazy. I swear, yo. And at the same time, like, I couldn't see my doctor for days. It's COVID. I live in a fucking aging area. Like, the average age of where I live at, yo, is like 55 years old, yo. People around here old as shit, yo. You know what I'm saying? Not saying 55 is old, but the population is just an older population. Motherfuckers be at the doctors all the time around this shit. It'll be so hard to just go see my regular doctor. And it happened on a Wednesday. So I go get my bottle of liquor first, and then I come home and I call my doctor. Yo, doc. Well, the secretary at the front desk or whatever, I need to make a doctor's appointment. Oh, okay, Mr. Prince, what's going on? I said I injured my ankle. It's in a lot of pain. I think I pulled my Achilles tendon. Okay, I'll send your doctor the notice, and she'll get back with you. So that was Wednesday. Nothing. Then Thursday, half of the day Thursday go by. Still didn't get a call back from my doctor, so I called him again Thursday and like, yo, I'm in fucking pain. Ouch. I need an x-ray or something. Oh, okay, well, I'll send your doctor another notice and make sure that she knows this is your second time calling and that the pain is increasing, and she'll get back to you to schedule an appointment. So that was Thursday, and then Friday comes. Like, my doctor's open at, I think, 8:30. So like 10 o'clock, I didn't hear shit by 10 o'clock. I'm calling the doctors at 10 o'clock Friday. I'm like, yo, I done called y'all for like the past 2 days. For some reason, I haven't heard back from my doctors. Like, I'm in fucking pain. I'm just gonna cancel whatever you've been telling the doctor on the emails, and I'm just gonna go to the fucking ER, yo. So I wound up going to the ER, and they did some tests on me, and they took an x-ray, and they put me in a temporary cast, and they said, yeah, we're going to make an appointment to the orthopedics because it looks like you did fucking pull your fucking tendon out. And so that Tuesday, it was almost a week before I saw a real fucking doctor, yo. And it was that last Tuesday I went to the orthopedics, and the real doctor saw me, and she did some shit. She's like, yeah, you fucked up. You really fucked your shit up. And so she was like, she checked her schedule, and she said she can do surgery on me this past Friday. Like, I just had the surgery on Friday. But now they say it's fucking 12 weeks of recovery. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. The hospital. That's why I tried to go to my doctor's first, man. And then at the hospital, they gave me some medicine and a cast and the x-ray. And it's like, all them bills are going to come straight from the hospital. And then there's like the fucking surgery. And it's like, oh my God, my nigga. Yeah, like, this is going to be thousands of dollars of medical debt, yo. Thousands. But my deductible ain't that high. And I got pretty good insurance, yo. My insurance is pretty good, yo. But still, like, I ain't going to lie. I don't pay hospital bills. Like, yeah, that's the only debt I have. I ain't gonna lie, bro. That's the only debt I have. Cause y'all gonna have to get that shit in blood, man. Cause I'm not paying that shit, man. I don't pay doctor bills, yo. I go to the doctor. If they anything wrong, I go see the doctor if I'm hurting or anything. Yo, doc, what's up, man? My knee, my back, or something. You know what I'm saying? I don't pay the bills though, y'all got to eat that shit, yo. I pay enough taxes everywhere else. Our healthcare system fucked up anyway. You know what I'm saying? That shit should be free. And then plus, this is a common sports injury. Athletes do this shit all the time. The surgery was like an hour or some shit like that, man. Y'all can eat that shit, man. Go ahead, man. I ain't paying that shit, man. That shit ain't nothing. Shit, I remember, bro. I'm not paying that shit, dude. That shit hurt so bad though, bro. So bad. And then the crutches. And then I got a fucking 3-story house, bro. And my studio is on the 3rd floor. You know, I gotta crawl upstairs. I gotta literally like get on my knees and come upstairs, slide on my butt going downstairs and shit, bro. It's the worst, yo. Now I'm out of work for however long. My doctor said 12 weeks. She said maybe 8 or 10 weeks I can go back. But she was like, you might need a whole 12 weeks to just sit down. And so, but once again, man, my job, bro, I know I talk about my job a lot. Yo, this is the best job I've ever had, yo. I'm a high school dropout, and they got me doing shit like most niggas need some kind of degree or certification or something for. You know what I'm saying? It's crazy as shit, bro. And then, I don't know, that shit like a little family unit, yo. And then we got the best of everything. Like, our healthcare is the fucking best, yo. Like, my health insurance, my eye insurance, dental, my life insurance policy. Boy, that shit so fucking sweet, bro. And I got short-term disability. Bro, soon as I told my job, I sent them my doctor's excuse, and my doctor saying that I gotta have surgery. Bro, they on the phone like, can we do anything? I'm gonna call the company. We're gonna go ahead and get your short-term disability set up. All I need from you is this much information. Don't work. And it's crazy, like, cause we gotta do our own timesheets, like we gotta clock in and clock out, but we got a computer's data system, and we do that shit ourselves. You can really lie. I can just be like, I can do my shit from home and be like, yo, I'm at the office from this time and that time, and just press enter. But it's like this honesty policy, you know what I'm saying? And it was like, yo, don't worry about your timesheets. We'll have payroll do all your time, and we'll apply your vacation. So make sure you'll have a full paycheck. And like, yo, my job is the fucking shit, yo. And a couple of coworkers and like my direct supervisor, like my boss. And I understand what they mean too. Like, if I need something, they will literally come to my house. They're like, yo, if you need us to come cook your dinner or do your laundry for you or help take out the trash, like, they're like, don't hesitate to call us and we'll come through and help, yo. Like, and that shit dope as fuck, yo. So I'm kind of in a good spot. Like I said, I ain't gonna be working for a minute, but I will have like some kind of disability payments. And hell, I got time to sit around and work on some more commissions. I just finished the one commission, and the dude already paid me for that. I had this week alone, I had 2 people ask for some prices. So I sent out some prices. One person actually sent me a photograph and said, okay, for this one, specifically how much? And I gave them a price on that. And they were like, oh, I'll let you know on Thursday, which means no, really. Because if I gave you my price list, you see what prices I have, and you sent me the picture, and I gave you a price for that project, you would have said, okay, I'll send you the deposit now. But if you gotta wait until another day to fix, then like you're not gonna get it. But bro, I swear, yo, I feel lucky as shit. Like this year, I don't know. It's been even with this shit, it still don't cancel out. Like I had a good ass year this year so far, bro. Like still, I feel like this is like the most negative thing that's happened. And then there somehow I keep trying to find a blessing out of this shit. Like, okay, well, I just get to sit home and paint. Like that's a major plus for me actually. Like I hate that I had to injure myself and have fucking surgery and go through all this fucking pain, but I'm home for a couple weeks. I get to work on art every fucking day. So I mean, that's how I'm looking at it. Honestly, I gotta move around a little slower and shit like that, but it is what it is. So, like, just gotta keep this motherfucker elevated. Uh, and they gave me some oxycodone, yo, bruh. That shit is some drugs, nigga. That's why I say I don't do drugs, and that's why, uh, like this shit hurt right now. I'd rather take the pain, bruh. I'd rather take the pain. You know what I'm saying? You ain't about to have me on these fucking oxys and shit. I feel you, dude. Like I've taken some of them. You know, it's prescribed to me, and they're 5 milligrams, so it's a low dosage. And that's the thing too. Like I realized like it don't get rid of the fucking pain, bro. Like that shit just kind of numbs it, and it does say on it like for severe pain, and like the first day and like the 2 days after the surgery, oh my god, that shit was fucking severe. Like it was almost more painful than the injury itself. You know what I'm saying? Cause they didn't cut me twice. They had to cut the skin and go in there and suture and do whatever to the tendon and come back and close up the skin. And it's like, oh my god! And I can feel like where it was like 1 point of pain, now I got 2 points of pain, and that shit hurts so fucking bad, bro. And I take them oxys, and it don't get rid of the pain. It'll just like numb it a little bit, but my shit still hurt, and it's like, what the fuck am I even taking this shit for then? I'd rather not take that shit, man. And then my doctor, she made me sign like some kind of surgery form that her and some of her other colleagues had to develop because she said that the pharmaceutical companies were getting really, really strict on giving people opioids. And I get it. Like if you feel like you really need that shit and you in pain for some legit medical reason, and take your fucking Percocets and your oxys or whatever, yo. But like motherfuckers know like people try to sell them shits or get addicted to them shits, and she said it's getting harder and harder for her to give prescriptions to her patients for anything that contains opioids or barbiturates. And I'm like, all right, but yeah, I'm good on that, yo. I feel you, bro. Like, you know, take them shits. Like, I look forward to the jerseys by Christmas. I got you. You ain't got nothing else to do, nigga. You sitting in the house. You got plenty of time now. And then I'm about to curse myself right now. Watch. I'm not gonna wood, but yo, yesterday was the first time I felt an itch, bro. Like my shit was itching like right here. You can't scratch that bitch. I'm like, oh. Oh my god. So my foot hurting and my leg itching. I'm like, what the fuck is this shit, man? Like, is this some kind of torture, yo? And then sometimes, like in my sleep, it feel like I'm wearing shoes. And so I don't know, like twice I tried to flick it, and like I was taking my shoe off. I'm like, oh shit, that's my cast. Oh my god, this shit is so stupid, yo. This is some stupid shit. Alright, alright, alright. But I have been taking aspirin. My doctor says take 2 aspirin a day. I guess aspirin helps like thin your blood and keep circulation good, so I don't develop a blood clot. She said because the veins and everything are really small around that tendon, and she wants the blood to circulate nice and good until it heals up. So take 2 aspirin a day. I will do that. But the motherfucking the oxys, y'all can keep that shit. Y'all can have that. That shit had me feeling some type of way, and that ain't good. I feel like I feel on some high, on like some different funny ass high shit, yo. And it's just like nah. Motherfuckers do that shit for fun. That's how y'all like feeling for fun. Oh no, I'm good. I'm straight on that. What that shit is? A nerve blocker, a muscle relaxer? Nah, I don't need none of that. Yeah, so some over the counter aspirin, nah, I'll do that. You know what I'm saying? I'll take 2 aspirin a day. And then that's only until like honestly until I feel like my pain is gone or have subsided enough where it's not like where I'm wincing, like right now, just to like move my foot a little bit, just like ow nigga. Like once I get past this shit in like a week or so, man, fuck that aspirin too, man. I ain't gonna keep taking that shit. Uh taking as needed, as prescribed by your doctor. You know, fuck that. And now the main thing I'm missing the fucking gym, bro. I can't even lie, yo. Like I ain't gonna be able to go to the gym like I want to for 12 weeks. Fucking stupid, yo. I get back in the gym, I feel weak as shit, yo. And I just got my bench up to like where I can do. I was gonna try to max out at 300 pounds on a flat bench, and I just like in the past couple months, y'all been able to do like, well, I do a pyramid set, and I don't really know like in the next couple of weeks I was really gonna start testing myself, yo, to see how close I can get to 300 pounds. But on chest day, like how I do my flat bench, I'll do 135. And that's what I warm up with. And my warm up ain't shit, yo. Well, I actually just do some stretches and some dumbbells, get warmed up. I'll put 2 45-pound plates, 45, 45, boom. And I'll do that shit 10 times. And that's 135. Bang, bang, bang. I do that shit 10 times. And then I'll add 2 more 45s. Now what we got? That 215. No. I'm about to get my numbers wrong. What's that? 225. Then I do that shit. I do that shit 5 times for 2 sets. So my first set, I do 1 set of 10. When I add some more weights, I'll do, see, get my math about to be all off. Let me see. So that's the 135. and then I'll do 225 for 2 sets of 5. And then I'll add wait a minute. Yeah. And then that's 265. Damn. Yo, they say you can't really come back 100% from this shit, yo. It's very rare. Like you'll get full range of motion and mobility and everything, but like to have that original strength, that push off, because what that tendon does is help you like literally push off the ground, yo. Like this, it helps you stand on your tippy toes, and that's how you fucking walk, bro. You can't walk without using your toes, and so that tendon raises your heel so you can push off on your toes. And once you injure that shit, you'll never have that same fucking push off strength. You know what I'm saying? So whatever your jump foot is, whatever you foot you jump off of, and you injure that shit, you come back, you ain't jumping. You gonna jump and probably feel good with no pain or nothing, but it ain't gonna be the same. It ain't gonna be that same jump, yo. My doctor said that shit. She said some of your tendons and shit like your calf muscles too. You fuck your calf muscles up, like them shits don't come back. It ain't the strength. That shit don't ever come back 100. Very rarely will you get it back 100%, yo. And she said for me, like even this shit, it'll be a year before I can really feel like, okay, there is nothing wrong with me. She's like, in 12 weeks, you'll be walking and everything, like, but you'll still feel something, feel kind of funny, and feel like that foot is weak. And then the chances of re-injuring it is always going to be high as shit, yo. But yeah, now my gym workout is all fucked up. As I was pushing, I think the highest I was benching was 285, and I can get that shit twice. But now, I said if I can get, because I was getting 285 twice, and that was at the top of the pyramid though. So I done did 135 10 times. I done did 225 10 times. I do 260 5 times, and then I can still do 285 2 times after doing all that shit before it. And then after I do 285, then I start just taking the weights off and work my way back down in the same sets. And then I've been doing that shit for a couple months. So I was gonna like keep doing that shit for this month, and then next month, without just a little simple warm up, I was gonna put 300 pounds on that bitch and see if I can lift that shit, yo. Ain't no way to get that shit, bro. I ain't even fooling myself with that shit no more, man. I ain't gonna lie, bro. I don't even be worrying about it. If you weren't lucky enough to get that pre-order, just wait, man. And then the second wave of pre-orders is gonna probably be the same thing, where if you're not hovering over the order button online when the pre-orders open up, then you're not gonna get one from the second wave either. Like, you gotta be those iPhone people waiting in line for hours and hours. I'm not that dude, yo. Like, it's weird like how it is now because I've always had my consoles day one. Like I'm a gamer. My VR headset, this whole past generation of games. I had the Xbox One on day one. I had the PS4 on day one. I had the PS4 Pro on day one. When that shit came out, I swapped my shits in same day and got a PS4 Pro. I had the VR, PSVR day one when that shit came out. Like the generation before that shit, I had everything day one. And like this time it's just not gonna happen. And you know what I'm saying? It's just like, fuck it. I'm not gonna stress over that shit so fucking bad. Yo, like I really want that shit, and I'm gonna get one. And it just might be 6 months after they come out, a year after it comes out, or something. Cause I'm not gonna be fucking fighting over that shit or staying online waiting for notifications on that shit. Like I ain't playing that game. Day one, bro. We've been on this shit since day one, bro. Hell yeah. And now it seems kind of weird, like when people's like, "Oh, go order, pre-orders are out," and you like, you can't get the hype for like the past couple weeks is like no one, and it's just like it's fucking silly. It's so stupid. Like I don't want to fight for the PlayStation. Like stupid. Oh, in the living room. you know. Yeah. And how long we had these consoles? 6 years? Almost 7 fucking years. I'm excited about that new shit though, yo. I ain't gonna lie, yo. I can't wait to get that shit. And I finally heard one of the dudes. Somebody said that there are rumors of the VR headset 2 coming out, yo. Because that new Oculus Rift, y'all seen that shit, yo? The Oculus Rift something, and they only want $300 for that shit, yo. And it's all wireless, and that shit is all built into the fucking head unit. And the fucking controllers for that shit is nice as fuck, yo. Man, I might get that shit, yo. You know what I'm saying? Them shits, you can order them shits, and them shits ain't all sold out. Mm, mm. I'm happy you got that. Yeah, I'm happy you got that one comment in there, bro. Congratulations. Nice. You got that. You got that one. It's too. Man, come on, man. Look, bro. It ain't even 6 o'clock yet, man. Come on, man. It ain't even 6 o'clock in the morning yet. What's wrong with you, man? Huh? What is wrong with you, bro? Jesus Christ. This nigga like, gotta troll somebody. It's so funny though. It is funny. It's so funny. Yeah, damn. Oh my god. It's the funniest shit, bro. Damn, it ain't even 6 o'clock, nigga. Wait a minute. Yo, this nigga, you ain't even whack off or wash your face or nothing. You just wake up like troll. Motherfucker, breath still stink. Did you even brush your teeth yet, bro? Nothing. You be trolling with morning breath, huh? Look, just roll over out the bed, just like I'm about to troll somebody. Just wake up with hate, nigga. And that's what I don't understand, yo. Yo, Turn, what the fuck you be doing to these dudes, man? These motherfuckers be fucking sensitive as shit, bro. Like, yeah. Yo, you hating on like you Trump, nigga. Like, yo, they be hating on this cat like he Donald Trump, yo. What you be doing to him, bro? Motherfuckers be extra sour, mouth all puckered up. Man, fuck Turn. That nigga live under the bowling alley. I don't get it, bro. Yo. And they follow this nigga everywhere. Stalking the shit, yo. Like, what the fuck, yo? Motherfuckers be creeps, bro. He made his presence known. He got that one in there. You know? Motherfucker just scroll through the comments. Oh, he in here? I gotta say something. Nigga, did you even eat breakfast yet? Did you even have some juice? You ain't even drink no juice this morning? I had some breakfast, a banana. You brush your teeth, or nothing? You just wake up with the funky ass morning breath, just sweating hate, mouth smelling like fucking sour diapers. Did you even smoke a doobie yet? Huh? Meditate? Anything? No. Huh? You just follow this man around. Let's follow this grown ass man around talking shit. What the fuck kind of shit is that? Yo. I don't get it, bro. I wish I was hated on like Donald Trump. Shit. I need more haters too, man. I used to have a bunch of haters. They just stopped coming around now. Like, man, shit. You know what I'm saying? Like Cat Williams, man, you gotta have more haters this year than you had last year. That's how you know you're doing something. Motherfuckers ain't hating on me enough. I gotta start acting up. Calling these niggas out. This nigga just first thing in the morning, faux daylight. Huh? The sun ain't even up yet, nigga. Faux daylight. This nigga heart just pumping hate. I gotta let him have it. Oh my God. No food, no games, no sleep, no nothing. Just nothing, man. I swear, yo. Oh, they know who got the tomahawk. It ain't even 6 o'clock in the morning yet. God damn, bro. That's ridiculous, man. I ain't gonna lie. That's ridiculous. All right. No money, no love. The hall monitor. I gotta get you a sash and a badge. Just obsession. And they do be obsessed, bro. I don't know. I don't get it, man. You ain't with the sash and the badge? Shit. This motherfucker got obsession for Turn. Got obsession for the Terminator. He'll never take pictures of me with his drone. He'll never fly his drone over my house. He'll never make comments in my stream. He don't invite me to play video games with him. Man, fuck that nigga. That's why he live under a bowling alley. He don't live like we live. Fuck is you even saying? What is you even saying, bro? This nigga's stupid. It's too early in the morning for this shit, man. You just made my leg hurt a little bit more. You know that? That's how dumb you is. I might do need an Oxycontin. Motherfuckers just stupid.
Now breaking news, a powerful earthquake has struck southern Alaska, triggering a tsunami warning. According to the USGS, the 7.5 magnitude earthquake struck off Sandpoint, Alaska, just before 2 o'clock this afternoon. It was followed by several aftershocks in the 5.0 magnitude range. You can hear it. The quake prompted tsunami warnings for many communities along the southern coast, but those warnings have now been downgraded to advisories.
Tonight, President Trump attacking Dr. Anthony Fauci as the coronavirus surges in the U.S. The president saying, quote, people are...
Y'all been hearing about this shit too. How Trump bring Fauci on and tell everybody to listen to Fauci. Now he's saying like Fauci, like y'all motherfuckers shouldn't have never listened to this dude. It's like, bruh. But Alaska had an earthquake that triggered a tsunami warning? That's crazy. Trump talking shit about Fauci? That was almost predictable. You know, I used to like him. Now I don't like him so much. What else is going on? AGI dominance. I don't think that's a real thing. I'm about to paint for like another 20 minutes, 30 minutes. Any suggestions on what we should listen to while I get these brushes wet? Oh, I actually got a video. I never watched Daily Motion that much, man. I was on that fucking what was first? It was Ustream, yo. I used to watch the ads people on Ustream, and then like that Daily Motion shit, yo. That was like some hood. That was like some real hood shit, though. That's why PlayStation was like, nah. We not with this shit. My Instagram. So. She says, such a cool creation by an awesome artist. Now my brushes won't roll off my desk. An artist knows what an artist needs. Thanks a million. At Paintings by the Prince. Yeah, so that's pretty dope. She made a little video showing that she got her product. Came in the mail all nice and neat. actually shared that on my Facebook. Bro, how you on both of your accounts at the same time, though? You got too many devices, man. You need to turn some of that Wi-Fi off. What you doing, man? All right. Something to listen to. Supercar Blondie. Yeah, she be fucking with all the hot rides, yo. Let's just say this.
The new Hyundai Sonata with remote smart parking assist. You won't find that on a Ford, Camry, or Altima.
Lease a Sonata for $129 a month, or get 0% APR for 72 months, plus $500 bonus cash. Learn more. The development of full artificial intelligence could spell the end of the human race.
I just don't want to be destroyed by the AI. That's it, man. Just like make the world better, but don't destroy us.
Theoretical physicist, biologist, and author of obviously artificial intelligence and automation in general is greatly beneficial for society in today's age and will probably continue to be beneficial in the coming decades. However, if or when intelligent machines become strong enough, they will pose a serious threat to humanity. Century away, it's hard to take this issue very seriously, or so it would seem. If we stop and think about it, the time frame as for how long it takes to develop artificial general intelligence is not a compelling argument why we shouldn't be concerned. It is in fact non sequitur. This response from some, quote, skeptics also comes with an implicit claim. Suppose we figure out it takes 100 years to develop.
Oh damn, that's crazy, bro.
To say we shouldn't worry.
Yeah, I feel like my account's gonna get banned again soon, and I'm gonna have to start over again. That's the tragedy of being too real on this shit, bro. The tragedy of being too real. You get canceled, man. Cancel culture. You already know about that cancel culture. Who you think you is, Chappelle? Huh?
Probably not, but this is more or less what is happening with AI. It's really a depressing state of affairs for the chances of humanity to survive this existential threat. If we have to convince lay people and some experts alike that we even have a problem. As of 2017, there are about 49 organisations actively researching AGI. One could argue that the risks involved in the development of AI and ultimately AGI are intrinsic to the creation of intelligent systems that are goal-orientated.
How they follow your new accounts though, bro? That's crazy, my dude. Bro, I made a new account. They still got that. Like, what is you doing?
One example, it might be electricity or sway the human, shutting it off.
All right, my bad, guys. I'm trying to get comfortable. It's weird because I got to keep my leg propped up, so I want some. Man, I got the joint in between my legs, man. My foot over here, bro. I'm painting on some weird shit right now, man. Just give me a second. Oh my god, bro. Oh, he got a new account? Oh, I'm about to troll this shit too. You ain't getting away that easy, Terminator. Huh?
Which does not have an apparent application other than destruction.
I'll be watching you, every account you made, every game you stream. Yo.
The short answer is yes. The long answer is, well,
motherfuckers just watching you, son.
children at about the age of 4 learn to tell their first lies. That's because at that age, humans develop a theory of mind, which is the ability to attribute mental states to others. It is the understanding
You need the
that
bodyguard
others have beliefs, desires, intentions, and perspectives that are different from one's own. But unlike humans, other intelligent systems, in order to use manipulation as a strategy to achieve their goals, they don't necessarily have to be self-aware or a conscious system. Narrow AI of today, like Labratus, the AI poker player, has the ability to deceive its opponents. In a competition, Labratus was able to beat some of the best human poker players.
A poker?
While
How
its
can
first
you?
application was to play poker, its designers have a much broader mission in mind for the AI.
Yeah, but it's a.
The investigators designed the AI to be able to learn any game or situation in which incomplete information is available and opponents may be hiding information or even engaging in deception. DeepMind's AI, called Agent 57, was able to become superhuman in all 57 Atari games using a deep reinforcement learning algorithm. It came up with a range of strategies to achieve its goal. It had no previous built-in knowledge or inside access to the code structure of the games. Much like a human, it learned by observation through cameras. It had no concept of time, enemies or platforms, and in a few hours, it quickly surpassed human-level performance in all 57 games. To take Stuart Russell's example, it would be like your newborn baby, in a few hours after birth, started beating the doctors in all Atari games. You'd be pretty terrified if that happened. However, as impressive as today's AIs are, they are still considered weak or narrow AI. They lack true versatility. Narrow AIs are able to beat humans at specific tasks, such as chess for example. The same AI cannot beat humans across multiple domains, at least not yet. In the future, with the development of AGI, we might be able to crack some of nature's deepest secrets. An AGI might be able to solve and discover new mathematical equations, run simulations, and come up with a, quote, intuitive understanding of what is happening inside the centre of a black hole. It could eradicate any disease and create a wealth of sorts only envisioned in science fiction. The possibilities for scientific inquiry are endless. However, before we dare to dream for such a world, we'd better solve the AI control problem. As mentioned in a previous video, one solution to the possible misaligned values between artificial general intelligence and us is a man-machine symbiosis. If you can't beat them, merge with them. DARPA, the Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency, the United States Department of Defense agency responsible for the development of emerging technologies for military use, is very much interested in the development of AI and its ever-growing man-machine merging properties. DARPA announced in September 2018 a multi-year investment of more than $2 billion in new and existing programs called the AI Next campaign. Key areas of the campaign include improving the reliability of AI systems, enhancing the security and resilience of machine learning and AI technologies, and pioneering the next generation of AI algorithms and applications, such as explainability and common sense reasoning. DARPA also developed smart exoskeletons that help paralyzed people walk again or improve the strength and endurance of the average person. They are also focused on the development of implantable devices that can perform computing functions similar to a desktop or laptop computer.
Yeah, DARPA doing all kind of shit.
A private company that is also focused on implantable brain-machine interfaces is Neuralink. Its founder, Elon Musk, has also publicly voiced concerns about AI. In an interview, he said, AI will be the best or worst thing ever for humanity. The device Neuralink is working on would be implanted directly into the skull to enable electrode threads to interface with certain areas of the brain. Musk said the initial goal of the implant is to use it as a means to treat brain injury or trauma, including the restoration of eyesight, hearing and limb movement, in addition to addressing diseases that affect the brain. According to him, the device would, in principle, fix anything that is wrong with the brain.
I mean, some people view the brain as like this incredibly mystical thing that you cannot interface with the brain, but and then some people are aware of deep brain stimulation, such as occurs for Parkinson's patients.
In the long term, Musk hopes to develop a device that could enable symbiosis between humans and AI. In the future, if such a device ever sees the light of day, it would be expected to cost a fortune.
Don't let Joe Biden tax away your rights.
Guess what? If you elect me, you're not going to have your taxes are going to be raised, not cut.
Especially if you were a gun.
Although, if it's able to increase one's intelligence by, let's say, an unprecedented factor of 10 or even more, it could in principle make a high return on investment. However, even if we dedicate a considerable amount of resources to the development of brain-machine interfaces, it is by no means a silver bullet to the AI alignment problem, because in principle, it's much easier to build AI in a box than it is to build AI that can be integrated with a human brain. One could also argue that it's better to take the chance with a sole AGI rather than have it integrated with a human brain, blended with some of the worst human traits like aggression, the prone to violence, and the urge to dominate. But we have to start somewhere. As Elon has alluded before, this endeavour could either prove to be the best or the worst thing for humanity. Thanks for watching. Did you like this video? Then show your support by subscribing, ringing the bell, and enabling notifications to never miss videos like this.
I want to hear more about that DARPA AI program that they're going to invest how many billions of dollars into? Let's see. Singularity U, Germany Summit. When they talk about the singularity, which is the moment where science can merge man and machine, they say the singularity is definitely on the horizon, but let's not watch this one right quick. And this is from 2017 too. Biotechnology, nanotechnology, Andrew Hessel, Singularity U, 2017. But let's look up DARPA. DARPA AI program. AGI program. Or projects. Let's see. MIT Artificial Intelligence 6-week online AI course. I don't want that. 1 year ago, Artificial Intelligence Colloquium, DARPA, Future R&D in AI. This was a year ago. Watch DARPA's AI versus human and virtual F-16 aerial dogfight from 1 month ago. So they're having AI algorithms fly fighter jet planes, and they're doing better than human pilots. DARPA, military robot manufacturing, U.S. Army autonomous systems today, Skynet. Let's look up, let's watch this first one. This is 25 minutes from last year, artificial intelligence from DARPA.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the Deputy Director of DARPA, Dr. Peter Heinem.
Peter Heinem is the director, deputy director.
So, thank you for participating in this colloquium, and thank you for staying till the better end. Spreading an empty floor, so that's good. Now, so what I'm going to do is talk about where we are, and talk about the journey we've taken to get to this point, and then look ahead. So you have to know where you are in order to understand where you need to go next. The bottom line is that after 60 years of pushing and striving, the field of AI became an overnight success in the last decade. And I think we're all dealing with that in all kinds of good and bad ways. And that's part of what I'm going to reprise now. Spoiler alert, much accomplished and much more to do. The DARPA by design is an integral part of the research community with continuous interchange of technical leaders and ideas. And DARPA is also part of the Department of Defense, charged with avoiding and imposing technological surprise. Licklider's vision back in 1960 is quintessential DARPA. He saw, looking at basic teletypes and room-sized computers, what was technically plausible. He saw the advantage for the department and launched, perhaps inadvertently, generations of researchers in pursuit of that vision. And this is the original quote. This isn't a story of computer science alone. In fact, it wasn't even a field at the time. Or EE, or CogPsych, or biology, or math. All these fields and more have been tapped for insights, and in turn have been fundamentally changed. And in all this time, DARPA has executed on his original vision. As Steve spoke to this in his opening charts, and it illustrates DARPA's sustained investments. It also represents, not here, not shown of course, hundreds of DARPA program managers and tens, if not hundreds of thousands of engineers and scientists working with DARPA over 6 decades, creating generations of computing expertise. Insights drawn from very basic technology, the cultural narrative of the time it started, and I went back and looked, and this is even before the first Star Trek season. Okay. It began 6 decades of investment, not all of which have provided results, but all of which have provided insights. This is DARPA in action. Clear vision, optimism, conduct the research, measure it, find challenges, and repeat until the problem falls over. And I think most of us here would agree that we're within we can see the goal line for some really interesting applications. As an aside, having lived through some of this period, I can also say some of the things that fell out were Lisp, Emacs, anybody? Ops 5? No? Oh, one in the back, okay. Robotics, stereo vision, symbolic calculus, and something called Canny's edge detector, which for 3 or 4 years was the big deal in computer vision. We also learned, and this is a little depressing, that brute force computing.
Yeah, that CERN stuff is crazy too, yo. And yeah, my aunt, she's been in the military for right out of college, like in the late 80s, early 90s. And she worked for Boeing, and then she did like some military crossover stuff. So like all those Lockheed Martin and DARPA and all that shit, yo. I've been always interested in this stuff like that, yo.
Under HT code, went after building chess chips, move generators, move evaluators, and so on. And it did so good that it went over to IBM and became Deep Blue. Brute force computing built into the hardware. So we get a very interactive model. We saw computer science emerge as And what I like to show people when they come to my office and start telling about the wonders of AI is the 3-volume AI handbook that I have from the early 1980s. And this was a long trip, a lot of accomplishments, but not for the faint of heart. Now, there were setbacks. So, the DARPA AI Waves of AI construct is a useful way to view AI R&D investments over these decades. 2 implementation paradigms, that's what they are so far that have succeeded: handcrafted knowledge and statistical training or learning. And a general statement about what we believe is next, explanation or contextual reasoning. Now, if you were in those waves at the time or in that period, it was unclear, but coalescing over time, and especially visible, of course, in retrospect. And back to my point about brute force computing, each wave reflected the underlying computer power advances of the time and what became available. So think about what happened in the last decade or so, or 2 decades now, for machine learning to actually become real. Brute force computing buys you a lot. Now, DARPA is making the bet that the essence of the 3rd wave will be representing common sense, and I recognize how loosely defined that term feels at this moment, but just hang in there. It will almost certainly take longer than we hope, and we will learn much along the way. But in terms of that brute force computing aspect, we have a lot of cycles available. We have a lot of people working on making them available at very low electrical power. We have a lot of storage. We have a lot of communications. There's a really strong, very interesting base to work on. And all these together is why I'm personally very excited to be serving at DARPA at this time, helping to explore and create what comes next. Now, the field has a track record of alluring promises and under-delivery, which is represented here by the crests and falls of these various waves, which correspond approximately to levels of funding for the research. The under-delivery led to AI winters in terms of research investments, but DARPA and others never gave up entirely. And one of those winters can actually be ascribed to Director George Hollmeyer of DARPA in the late 1970s, a physicist and semiconductor guy who came on board and said, "What the heck's going on here? Why aren't you measuring results?" And there weren't really many results to measure. But in retrospect, he did a really good thing because he forced the pace in this field on rigor and on application. It wasn't just exercise exploration anymore. Now, the caution at the moment with the successes that we're seeing is that the tools that we generally use and see used are low in maturity. There's absence of robust test and evaluation practices. There's not yet a discipline.
Alright, so it doesn't look like I did much, but I actually have accomplished a lot in the last 2 days working on this painting. So now I feel comfortable with all the lines on the books. Oh, there's a little tightening up on this side to do on the other side, but straighten up the lines, adding a little bit of color and shadow and highlight to them. It's just getting them ready for the letters, and now on the next part is when it'll start looking real good.
So as a consequence, it created a new government speak at FFRDC, the Software Engineering Institute at Carnegie Mellon University, led by Watts Humphrey, and they single-handedly created the field of software engineering and permeated it worldwide, taking everything from hero coders to a mature discipline with repeatable results. As far as I know, we have major companies who are putting AI technologies into place, and they are learning the lessons of what happens if you don't have that, and piecewise putting that tradecraft together. But we don't have, again, this practice being developed, as far as I know. At the same time, during these periods, it wasn't just in the US, of course, that saw the ebb and flow of support for AI technologies. In Japan and very famously in the 1980s was the fifth generation computing, National Initiative. In the UK, an AI winter caused by the Lighthill report. So that said, there were amazing accomplishments. So DARPA fund substantial wins, which were only possible by sustained and informed research investments through this period. DARPA did have funding partners, of course.
Are you going through the history of DARPA?
And it's great to have a champion in that position. We also have the White House Select Committee on AI, which is co-chaired by our director, Steve Walker, and the director of NSF. And again, we're not waiting it.
Change your shampoo right now if you don't want to go bald. The shampoo you're using has...
This is kind of wild. Will a robot take my job is one of the most Googled questions. It kind of makes sense. You know, when phones were first invented, there was probably horse messengers freaking out all over the joint. Vinyl's making a comeback, but fidelity aside, why bother when you can have a curated playlist with thousands of songs right on your phone? Come to think of it, I can't tell you the last time I shot a film on film. See, change makes people panic, but things evolve regardless, so we accept it and move on. And now that we're entering the so-called fourth industrial revolution, yeah, automation's going to replace some jobs, but it will also create new ones and probably give rise to industries that never existed. That's the topic of some of these next moves in exploring how machine learning is more productive, safer, and that felt okay. You want to go again?
No, set.
Okay.
Maybe just step back over the mark.
Yep, now the books are ready for some lettering. Like I said, this side over here.
Right, yeah, I think I get it.
Oh my god, yo, this shit is going so quickly.
Is at a crossroads.
You probably have to like tighten these lines up a little bit here
Professional drivers looking for other work.
on those books, but not too much.
In the US alone.
There are, of course, some industries that will be impacted by in terms of labor, workforce being connected. But there are some industries that don't have the workforce to sustain it. And so that disconnect, that's where AI can fit in very nicely.
My name is Maureen Fitzgerald. I've been driving trucks for 32 years, and I was ready to make a change. 3, 2, 1.
Yeah.
Approaching retirement, Maureen saw automation coming and assumed it would replace her. She was partly right. Automation is coming.
Alright, Joe. Yo, this piece is gonna be hot, yo. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm feeling good about this. I'll probably go back to sleep for a couple hours. I get with y'all later on. Peace.